Hello and welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. I'm your host, Josh Woodman, and with me today are the best panelists we could scrounge up, starting with one of the many fans who drove Gabe Davis out of Buffalo, Finn Lyons, someone who I'm surprised even showed up today after his favorite basketball team was snubbed yesterday, Garrett Sherwin, and a fellow Omar Khan enthusiast, Casey Irwine. Welcome, gentlemen. We have a lot to unpack after a week off. And starting out locally, the Steelers underwent a soft rebuild on offense this week, losing all three of their previously rostered quarterbacks and bringing in two new ones. Russell Wilson was brought in on a league minimum deal before this team also traded for Bears misfit quarterback Justin Fields. Despite multiple contrasting reports on who will start for the team, Garrett, who do you think should start week one?
I really don't think this is a question. I think it's Russell Wilson. I mean, I know he struggled in Denver, but I really think that was a Sean Payton thing. Last year, he had 20 TDs and 6 interceptions. He won a Super Bowl, not last year, but in his career. And he's never had a season below 3,000 passing yards. I think that's what the Steelers were missing. They just were missing a quarterback, and I think it's Russell Wilson.
No. Let's look at Justin Fields real quick. Sucks. Awful. Russell Wilson is
Look at his
way
franchise.
better than him.
Look at his
Yeah,
franchise.
why is he not
Why
good?
does he suck? Do you see?
His
he had a
franchise.
he had a good receiving core. He had a good defense. Did jack with it.
Did he have a good receiving core?
Komet. His Moody.
Chase Claypool was I know he got traded to the Dolphins, but before that, he was getting serious playing time there.
His first 2 years with the Bears, he had nothing. He finally had a little bit of something last year.
He
He won
nothing
7
with it.
games. He won 7 games.
Oh, 7 Mickey Mouse games. All right.
Mickey
They were
Mouse
fighting
games.
for the
Mickey Mouse.
playoffs
He
last
ran.
year.
They're
All he did
NFL
was
games.
run.
How are they
All he
Mickey
does
Mouse
is run
games?
around.
He had significantly less rushing stats last year. Now that he had more weapons as a quarterback.
And guess what? He still did nothing with his weapons.
He's not a bad quarterback, but he
He's
needs
an awful
time.
quarterback.
He needs to learn.
He needs to learn, and that's why Russell Wilson started. Okay,
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, 9-time Pro Bowler, 2-time in the Super Bowl, 1-time champion. Lost to Tom Brady. Should have ran the ball. Not his fault. There, it's Pete Carroll's.
He should have
But
thrown the interception.
And here's the thing: Russell Wilson last year, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, went 7-8. He beat teams such as the Chiefs, Packers, and Bills with a Broncos team which really is not set up for what Russell Wilson is as a quarterback. His success in Seattle was teams where he was not asked to be the savior. He was not asked to be the whole team, such as
He's
players.
asked to be the whole team hero.
No, he's not. No, he
Name
is
one
not.
player besides TJ Watt.
Jalen
That-
Warren.
That is the team.
Jalen Warren,
Najee
Najee Harris.
Pickens.
George
Freiermuth.
Pickens.
Okay, there you go.
I just
One player.
Here's the problem with acquiring him, though. In an Arthur Smith offense, you're going to want to throw the ball over the middle of the field, and that's not something he's done. He's never done that in his career. I don't know that it's really a
Doesn't
fit.
matter. They're going to finish 9-8 again. Make the playoffs and lose in the first round. Who cares?
All right. Well, as mentioned earlier, former QB1 for the Steelers and arguably a Pitt legend, Kenny Pickett, was surprisingly dealt to the Philadelphia Eagles last week. Being such a hot subject on this show especially, let's take a moment and reminisce on Pickett's time in Pittsburgh. Well, I ask you, Casey, did the Steelers fail Kenny?
Here's the thing. If Kenny Pickett did not fake slide against Wake Forest back in 2021, he'd already be back home in Philly flipping cheesesteaks on the grill, okay? That's what he'd be doing. He fleeced the Steelers. And I don't care who the offense coordinators, who the weapons are, who you're playing against, okay? If you are a 25-year-old first-round quarterback and in 12 games you throw 6 touchdowns, you can't blame anyone
at some
but
point,
yourself.
A career 13-13 touchdown interception ratio is your fault. I don't care who you have. You could have a rotting corpse out there and they would have thrown more touchdowns. At some point, it's your fault.
I don't think the Steelers failed him. I think they failed the roster by drafting him. There was a reason he was still available at 20, and they needed a center in that draft, and they let Tyler Linderbaum go to the Ravens at 25, get their center of the future. They could have drafted him there and then still got Kenny in the second round. I think they failed the rest of the team, not necessarily Kenny.
Yeah, and Kenny Pickett, here's the thing. He can't stay in the pocket. He's always rolling out and then doing something stupid. When he's in the pocket, he can't check over his reads. He's always looking one way, can't make the throw. And, he apparently has an attitude problem, wouldn't suit up back when Mason Rudolph took over as starter. And now, as soon as Steelers even sign another quarterback, immediately cancels the meetup he had with the wide receivers.
I'm glad you
Asks to
brought
be
that up,
traded.
Casey. So there were only 3 wide receivers on the roster. How could they actually run any type of workout? And Deontay Johnson apparently had already requested a trade. So how realistic was it that they were going to even run a workout? I think this is off
It could be with
topic.
practice players, too.
I think the media in this town also ran him out of the town.
I mean, that's what Pittsburgh media is too. I mean, Pittsburgh media, it's a little bit toxic. I mean, it might be more toxic in Philly where he's going, so he's gonna have a rough time, especially.
He's not going to play in Philly.
Yeah,
Well, he will when Jalen Hurts.
They won't
gets
even
hurt,
they won't even know his name really. They're only going to know because he's going to get his butt pushed in a preseason game. Okay, that's where Kenny Pickett's legacy is going to be from now on. Okay, and Kenny Pickett.
But he was a 7. All I'm going to say is he was 7-4 as a starter. He was 1-0 without Matt Canada. He never really got the chance because, of course, he was hurt.
Despite of himself.
I do think that he wasn't going to be the long-term success in the city. I do think it was the right time to move on. But did the team fail him? I would say a little bit.
They
yes,
never gave him a good shot.
No, not ever.
We never
a fair
got to
shot.
see him without Matt Canada.
Yes. Moving on, it's been a tough time for Penguins fans recently, as not only was fan favorite Jake Gensel traded last week, but his signature milkshake was retired as well. While Carolina obtained Gensel in a delicious treat, many other teams improved, some, well, not so much. And aficionado Finn, tell me, what was the most impactful NHL trade deadline move?
Well, I'll be a little bit of a homer here and say the Sabres trading Middlestat to Colorado in exchange for Bo Byram. I think this is a win-win for both teams. Colorado needed a second-line center, and Casey Middlestat is having a record-setting career year for him. He has 50 points so far this season. He's already scored for the Avalanche so far, and he adds that second-line center that's going to make this team even more scary than they already are. Tied for first in their in their division without having any depth, really. They went out and acquired him. And for the Sabres, Byram has been electric, and that's just what they need in that defense.
Here's the thing, though. It's a solid trade, what you have there. But we're looking for most impactful here, and that's not really most impactful, you know. It doesn't really move the needle. It's really a salary thing mostly for both teams. Solid
Do
trade
you know
for
what
both.
you're talking about?
It's a
It ain't no salary
Colorado
trade.
has so many forwards, and Bo Byram.
They had
was
no
the-
depth until the trade
Bo
deadline.
Byram was the odd man out, and that's why they had to get rid of him because everyone faces a salary eventually. Okay, and you said Middlestat, he's having a great season, and Sabres may not have wanted to pay that contract in the offseason. So really, what's most impactful is one that happened right before the trade deadline: Hurdle going to the.
Hurdle's hurt. He ain't playing. How is that impactful?
Gensel was hurt too. Okay, Hurdle. Okay,
Hurdle's not going to even be back to the playoffs.
Hurdle's
Gensel's playing right
Hurdle's
now.
gonna be back next week. Okay, he said.
Allegedly.
Next week he's going to be back. He's a key contributor to this team. They only had to give him 2 third-round picks for a center who was an all-star this year.
Okay, on the Sharks.
He's there. He makes the Golden Knights possibly the deepest team in the NHL. Okay, rebuilding this team, trying to win
Okay, we're
another
going to
cup.
ignore Colorado, and we're going to ignore the fact that Vegas is barely in the
All
playoffs
right,
now.
all right, guys. Look, the correct answer is Gensel to the Hurricane. But let me explain. I think it's really what this shows the Hurricane are finally trying to do. They've only made the Cup twice in 02 and 06. They won it in 06. But by making this
Don't get me
move,
started
they're
about 06.
actually trying to compete. And it shows for the Penguins they're going to rebuild. I think this is most impactful for the way these two organizations are going.
It's more impactful than Hurdle.
I would say it is
Hurdle to the
impactful.
Sharks.
But here's the thing. It was all this talk about the Gensel trade. But clearly, from what the return the Penguins got, it wasn't as impactful
It was
as
impactful for Carolina.
It wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
it's a very
it wasn't as-
impactful
They got
in
rid
the
of.
long run, I would
They got
say.
rid of an
It's
awful
impactful.
Michael
It's
Button.
impactful for
and
two
they got
franchises.
Jake
Yeah.
Gensel.
It wasn't as impactful as what it was led up to be from what they got
I
back.
just think you don't know what
Well,
the
you're
word
just-
impactful means.
You got to rebuild. They don't have anything they like in their systems.
All right,
They got to rebuild.
all right. Staying on the ice, the NHL playoffs are slowly drawing near, and the Eastern Conference is really starting to heat up. With many teams only 1 or 2 games behind one another, I want to know who you think could sneak into one of the few wild card spots remaining, Casey.
For me, I have to go with the New York Islanders this year. They snuck in last year, large part due to Sorokin in net. Basically the only reason they made playoffs last year, as I said, was second in the Vezina Trophy voting last year. Only lost to Omar because Boston had the best regular season ever. They're only 1 point out of playoff spot. Noah Dobson on defense. He's exploded onto the scene as one of the best scoring defensemen in the entire NHL. You have up front, you have Horvat, you have Barzal, you have Nelson. They can lead the charge, and Detroit, they're in the spot ahead of them right now. Detroit's 2-8 in the last 10. Islanders will soon pass them. They have to play a lot of contenders coming up. That's how the season will work out. Where in these last few games, they're gonna have to beat teams to get into the playoffs, obviously, but beat teams that are
You
close.
picked the boring option.
Yeah, I
They-
mean, how's
sure.
that even a dark horse here?
I know
They're
you're
gonna
here.
make
I
it.
know you're here, Casey, but I gotta be the homer. The Sabres are making the playoffs, baby. This is so
It's
2011.
Back-to-back
This is
Homer
ju-
takes.
this-
This is
okay.
outrageous.
This is
is
just
outrageous.
like 2011. It's the stars are
The
aligning. They're
bias
being
is oozing
carried
off you, Finn.
by a star goaltender. Ukko Pekka is 15-9-1 since January 1st. 1.92 goals against average and 930 save percentage. The
Finn.
best in the NHL.
I just
And
have a
yet they're
question.
still 5 points
so
behind the wild card spot.
last segment, you said the Sabres are rebuilding.
I did not say that.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Okay, you did though.
I did
But
not.
no, it's
I
fine.
said they got Byram, who's been electric for them.
It's fine. So how can they be rebuilding?
They're not.
Finn. Okay. Well, I got to bring up the Pens here.
You
Yes,
you
yes.
literally said they're rebuilding.
Penguins.
Hold on.
You
Penguins.
you literally just
Hold
said
on.
what you accused me of
Why
saying.
are you
The Red
jumping
Wings
on
are
me?
only 5 points up.
Let me get through.
Because
Hold
you
on.
tried to
Let
put
me-
your points on me and
All
make
right,
my
look,
point
I'm not
look
even going to
bad.
listen to you. Look, the thing is, they have the games in hand advantage for the teams
Oh,
ahead of them.
one game.
And they
Oh,
play
so scary.
in 12 of their remaining games are against teams that are in front of them. They're going to have a chance to pass the teams up. I don't know that they can do it, but I'm going to say they can for right
Trade
now.
Gensel, you're not making the playoffs.
Michael
All
Bunting.
right, I personally believe the Caps have a really good chance of sneaking in there. But we're going to go, when we come back, we're going to be talking about, yes, the big dance, March Madness, right after this.
If you love them enough to suck the snot out of their nose at 4 a.m., then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair to hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. Provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. Casey, do you have your dancing shoes? Because I do. It's March, and that means move over football, take a break hockey. In the NBA, you don't matter much anyway. It's college hoop season. The big dance is right around the corner, so let's delve right into it. I want to know, Garrett, I'm just going to start with you. Let's skip ahead, because I want to know who's going to be the last team standing at the end of this month.
The Houston Cougars. Listen, they got senior Jamal Shetty. He's averaging 14 points, 6 assists, and 2 steals. And center Jawan Roberts, who's averaging 9 points a game and 7 rebounds. He's also a senior. And the thing with Houston is they run this special ball screen defense. They blitz. They trap out of it. It confuses teams. It forces turnovers. Just go look up the film on them. Listen, they're going to confuse teams. They have what it takes. And it's the Cougars' time.
Every year, Houston ends up being a 1 or 2 seed, and what do they do with it? Nothing.
flame
And why
out.
would I expect them to do anything with it again this year? Maybe they'll make the Elite Eight again or something.
Because
But it's
they're
not-
different. Look, they were in the hardest. Okay, so everyone kept saying, "Oh, the American Athletic Conference, Houston." They're in the toughest league in basketball, the Big 12, and they ran through
Okay,
it.
buddy.
Ran through it.
Finn,
You know
Finn,
who's
what
gonna
was
run-
your Finn? What was yours? Who's your pick?
I don't know. There's something about Creighton, man. Creighton's speaking to me.
Why?
Why? Let me tell you. They got Baylor Scheisman, 18.4 points a game. Trey Alexander, 17.6. Ryan Kalbringer, 17.1. They beat Marquette. They beat UConn. They're going to
That
run.
sounds like a whole lot of
Well,
points.
here's
They're
the
gonna
thing,
get past
they don't
Colgate,
have
though.
depth.
That sounds like a whole
and
lot
they
of
rely
They
a
beat
lot
UConn.
on Cole
Everyone's
Kreider
picking UConn
and,
as their
and
favorite.
Shireman, and I don't know that.
I
Look,
don't care.
Shireman last year, he came in from South Dakota State, and he was supposed to be
When-
this big three-point shooter, and he didn't do it. He's very unathletic, and all he can do is just stand in
He's
the
still
corner
putting up
and
the
shoot
points, though.
threes.
Here's the
My
thing.
thing is,
You
if
guys
you
keep
make
talking.
Cole Kreider drive
Garrett.
off the three-point line, it's over.
All right,
all
Garrett,
this
Garrett.
talk you have doesn't matter because UConn, they're going to sweep the tournament again. They were
pick the
31 and
boring
3 this
option,
year.
all right.
They're going back-to-back champs. The Huskies, 2 of their losses were they had injury impacts. Stephon Castle against Kansas. Donovan Clingan got injured in the second half against Seton Hall. Okay, and all their matchups in the Elite Eight, up to the Elite Eight, will be in New York or Boston. So they're basically gonna have a home crowd every game. Okay, and they have a starting lineup where anyone can put 20 points up a night, and so they're going to blitz through the tournament. It's an easy path to at least the Final Four.
That's a tough
you say.
region.
Oh, well, okay.
Whatever you say, when picking the winner, it's about vibes.
Okay, well, let's maybe go back a bit. And now this question might be a sensitive question to one of our panelists here, so I'm going to avoid him for now. I'm going to go to you, Finn. Who was the biggest snub after yesterday's Selection Sunday?
All right, before Garrett does his whole Pitt spiel, because he's the biggest Pitt fan I've ever met, Oklahoma, I mean, they deserve the spot here. Come on. They had no bad losses. They got unlucky losing. They got unlucky losing to TCU.
If they had no bad losses, they'd be in the tournament.
We all know how the bracket makers were this year.
You make your own luck in basketball.
It's
though.
great.
You
It's
don't
very
have unlucky
great
losses.
that they ran through their easy non-con 271 in all of college basketball. That's in the bottom half, the bottom third. Only 3
I
road
don't
wins.
care about your made-up Ken Palm stats.
This is what the
that's true,
selection committee uses. And listen, they weren't that good. They had John Hughley. You know who John Hughley is? He's a former Pitt player. They were not that good.
It always comes back to
he's
Pitt,
a Pitt fan, so everything's about Pitt.
Before the pitch spiel happens, Indiana State absolutely had to be in the tournament, okay? No, since net ranking was introduced in 2018 by the committee, no team ranked in top 30 missed the tournament until now. They were 29th overall, large part due to their star player, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's right, Robbie Avila. He was a star at the center. He basically could have been Nikola Jokic in this tournament, okay? They were 28-6, lost to Drake in their conference final, which is why they're not in the tournament, but
All right. I'm going to pause you. Garrett, let's hear
That's
it.
real great for a team that only had one Q1 win. That's really what we want to see in the tournament. Listen, it's Pitt. Pitt has a better net than TCU, Washington State, Texas A&M, South Carolina, and Virginia, who they beat. They beat Virginia there, and that was their only loss at home. Did you know Virginia was undefeated? They had won 33 straight at home until Pitt beat them there? No. Oh my goodness. They are top 15 in the nation in their last 15 games, according to Bart Torvik. They have wins at Duke and at Virginia. They just played with 1 seed North Carolina on Friday. And since January 20th, they are 12-4. Only
Garrett.
losses
Preach.
to UNC,
Preach,
Clemson,
Garrett.
Wake, and Miami, all on the road. And not to mention, they have 3 Q1 wins,
You know who
and
they
they have 9 wins.
You know who they didn't beat, Garrett? Q should have been in the
how about that
tournament.
non-conference schedule?
Who cares?
All right. Settle down. You done, Garrett? Okay. Well, all of us here have brackets, and while we start filling them out, it's almost natural to start predicting some of the trademark upsets in the early rounds. So, Casey, which Davids do you see taking down their Goliaths when tourney play begins?
Last year, Arizona, 2 seed, lost to the Nerds of Princeton at 15. I think they lose again this year to another 15 seed. Okay, the story has been set up once again. Long Beach State will come in before the tournament, before their conference tournament. They said they were going to fire their coach Dan Monson. He led them to a conference tournament win as an unemployed man, and he's going to lead them to a big upset over Arizona, okay? Arizona has 2 losses in their last 3 games. One of them against Bronny's underachieving USC, another one to a Oregon team which has much less quality than them on paper at least, but it's March. Anything can happen. Caleb Love as their guard. I don't see him as a true leader that can lead them in March. And Long Beach State also beat USC earlier this season, who I just said Arizona just lost to.
Just because you brought up USC twice, USC's playing much better in this month. They've been playing much better, and also USC was without Collier and Bronny in that game, so against Long Beach State. So, but we're going to bring up Kansas here. Hunter Dickinson and KJ McCullough both are hurt. They're supposedly going to be ready for the tournament. They didn't play in the Big 12 tournament and they got blown out by Cincinnati. Cincinnati didn't even make the NIT, so not that great of a team. And look, they only have 5 players. They went in the portal and got Nick Timberlake from Townsend. He was supposed to be this scorer. He didn't do anything for them. And Johnny Furphy's now going to be a top 10 pick because he started to play good towards the end of the month. Here's the problem is if McCullough and Hunter Dickinson don't play that well, they're going to be screwed, and they have to play a Sanford team that's going to speed them up. I don't really like that matchup.
I got to pick Duke. Duke's going out. They're choking again. I think Vermont is on a war path. They had a great run in the American East Conference. They have Aaron Donnelly and Shamar Bogus. They can score from all down the lineup. They can score across the court. I just think Duke is going home.
And if anyone storms the court, Duke's going to be finished. I mean,
That's
For
true.
none of you,
One
for
thing
none
is
of you bozos to bring up serial known chokers, Purdue is a disgrace.
They can't lose to a
It's
16
disgrace.
seed at
It's a
Dash,
disgrace.
man.
They
It's
got
a
Lance
disgrace.
Jones this year. They are
Oh
a
wow,
good
they
team.
have new players every year. They always stink.
They're experienced.
Now, as we mentioned, it's almost tradition that one of these teams will beat beat a top seed and then move on and go on further and further. Garrett, I want to know what teams are going to snake their way past their big name opponent and find their way into the later rounds.
It's the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. Look, I saw them play in
Horizon
person.
League?
Hold on, I saw them play in person. They play this weird matchup zone that confuses pretty much everyone they play. They got junior point guard DQ Cole. He is your prototypical point guard. He's going to get the ball in people's hands. He's not going to look to score. They've got center big Trey Townsend. I saw him drop 22 and 17 on RMU. He is a problem. And they got three-point shooter off the bench, Jack Golke. Look, those three can lead them to the Sweet 16.
I can't take a team that competes against Robert Morris seriously, okay, in this tournament. Who you should be taking seriously, though, is the McNeese Cowboys, okay?
Yes, sir.
30-3 as a team. Beat Michigan. I know Michigan is bad, but that's a Power 5 score right there. Beat UAB, another 12 seed, by 21 points, okay? Absolutely dominated their conference. They're led by Shahada Wells, the transfer from TCU. He can go for almost 30 any single night. They're playing against Gonzaga in the first round. Gonzaga, underachieving team. Even the players said they're surprised with how high seeded they are. The coach is like, I thought we'd be a 7. And here they are at a 5. And McNeese, they're going to beat them, and they're going to run. I think their conference is a lot weaker.
My team also beat Michigan, and that's Michigan State Spartans, baby. I picked them at the beginning of the year. I picked them at the beginning of the year, and I'm sticking with them. I'm sticking with them. Sure, they're a streaky team. I don't care, but they beat Baylor, they beat Illinois, they beat Indiana State. They barely lost to Purdue. They're getting hot at the right time.
That's true.
Getting hot in March is going to lead them.
Michigan State.
Is going to lead them to the Final Four. Where they're going to eventually lose.
Not a Power 6 school.
They should not be there.
They're a 9 seed.
We're looking for a mid-major here, not a Power 6 school.
I don't care what you're looking for.
Well,
I'm looking for any team that isn't an elite seed. And 9 is definitely not a good seed.
The 9 seeds often beat the 8s. That's happened more times than not.
It
So
doesn't mean anything.
All right.
What are we doing here, Finn?
All right, pick your Horizon League school.
Finally, the NCAA tournament brings in loads of teams from all over the country, and these various teams have many different names and mascots. Finn, what has the best nickname in the tournament?
I got to go with the UAB Blazers. I don't know. There's something that just called. I was looking through all the teams, scrolling down. Something just called to me. And listen, I know we're not talking about their logo, but look at that beautiful logo.
Yeah,
to go with that, to go with the Blazers.
It's not a blazer.
But
that is a dragon. A blazer is this jacket I'm
what do they
wearing
do? They
right
blaze.
now.
They blaze fire.
A blazer is this jacket I'm wearing.
Well,
A blazer
Casey,
is
what
a
is
type
yours?
of Nike shoe.
Casey,
It's
I
not a
just think
fire-breathing
I think
dragon.
you're not creative.
Casey,
You know
what's
what's
Have you ever
creative.
seen a
You know what-
fire-breathing dragon in
know what-
Birmingham, Alabama, my friend?
Have you ever seen a penguin in Pittsburgh? Have you ever seen a panther in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, the
no.
zoo. Okay. Here's the thing.
I go to the zoo a lot.
Creative. You got to look at Vermont. You talked about them earlier. The catamounts. There's so
What's
many.
a catamount?
Have you seen a cougar
Made
in
up word.
Vermont?
Yeah,
Literal
there's-
made up
have you seen
word.
a cougar in Vermont?
It's another word
There are
for cougar.
plenty of
There's
cougars
so
all
many-
over the place.
Yeah, there's so many teams
in Vermont?
There's so many teams in this
Maybe.
tournament that are named the Cougars or the Wildcats. This team,
So you're just
they,
named
I'm gonna
the-
cut
you're
you
just
off.
named the
They had-
Cougars, but you made up your own word.
All right,
friends,
Garrett, you go.
friends.
Garrett, you go.
It's the Grand Canyon antelopes.
What is it?
A catamount
Why
would
not
eat
the
you.
valleys?
Yes,
or the
I would
canyons?
hunt
There's
you
something
across
that makes
the
sense
states,
to the Grand
but
Canyon.
it eat you.
But it is real. They are native to Arizona.
I don't care.
It
That's
is
not-
realistic.
that's not fun. That's
It's not
boring.
like
Who looks at an antelope and thinks, "Oh, scary and
Who looks at an
antelope, I
antelope
would
and be
eat
like,
you."
I want to
Okay,
be
so-
an antelope.
the
Nobody
cougars
wants to
from
be an
Vermont.
antelope.
All right,
Move.
gentlemen, chill out. All right, we're gonna go to break. When we come back, I'm gonna go over my final take. So stay tuned.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair to hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. Provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
Where are they? Shouldn't they be here by now?
Now it's gotta be here, guys. Like, for real.
Oh my god, Nate! Isn't it Thursday? Oh crap.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. Now it's time for my final take, where I'll be ranking my top 5 upsets in March Madness history. So panelists, sit back and relax and listen like the Pitt basketball team will be doing for the rest of the month, as I have some fun here. Starting at number 5, I have the 15-seeded St. Peter's beating the number 2 Kentucky in the first round of the 2022 NCAA tourney. Led by Daryl Banks and the icon that is Doug the Stash Eddard, the Peacocks would begin their Cinderella run, taking Kentucky to overtime, where the Wildcats would fall. Doug would lead this team to an Elite 8 finish, much to the surprise of the entire nation, including myself, who attempted to buy his jersey on multiple out-of-the-country websites. But anyway, let's move on to number 4. Number 4, we're going way back to 1983, where the 6th-seeded NC State, yes, Garrett, that NC State that made it ahead of your Panthers, would take down the top-seeded Houston in a thriller, 54-52. With some passing that looks better than Tom Brady's, NCAA would waste the last 45 seconds before Lorenzo Charles would snag a short shot and beat the buzzer with a dunk, sealing an upset. Those 5 players for NC State had the passing of Luka, composure of Curry, and Lorenzo. That dunk inspired the likes of a 6-year-old Vince Carter, my friend. Anyway, number 3. We're skipping ahead 2 years and looking at number 8 Villanova taking down top-seeded Georgetown in a 1985. You thought Reagan being elected president was crazy? What about an 8 seed winning the big dance? Like the saying goes, it never hit midnight for these Cinderellas, as Patrick Ewing and his Georgetown team were unable to deal with Villanova's 79% shooting percentage, and the Wildcats would become the lowest seed to win the tournament ever. Number 2, we're going back to the future to see FDU climb up the beanstalk and take down the giant Zach Edey in Purdue. Might not be built like him, but his player count might be Chris Paul, the way he's addicted to rings but allergic to winning them. Edey and the Boilermakers' barren streak continued, being unable to beat a 15 seed the year prior and one-upping themselves, losing to the 16-seeded FDU. Only the second time that's ever happened. Fairleigh Dickinson played well. Fairleigh Dickinson fairly played well, scoring 63 points, while Edey and the team put the team on his abnormally large back, but ultimately fell short. Moving on, number 1, give me the OG UMBC. No, not the building in Pittsburgh. I'm talking about the first 16 seed to ever beat a 1 seed in the men's tourney. The University of Maryland, Baltimore County, who beat Virginia, who were 31-2. There would be no King LeBron to see these Cavaliers, as a tied game at half turned into a massacre in the last 20, as Beemore County made vicious history, not only winning but killing their opponents 74-54. Again, this was the first for the men's tournament history, but a shout out to the 1998 Harvard women's team, who were the first to ever do it in college basketball.
Here's the
Panel.
Thing. No, here's
Go
the,
ahead.
here's the, first off, I can't believe you made March Madness political. First off, okay.
It's just a crazy thing. He was an actor who became president. It's a Back to the Future
Second off,
reference.
we're done with the 80s, okay?
Okay. You're one of those people?
Patrick Ewing.
Do you think LeBron's the GOAT?
Do I think no?
Are you disregarding what has happened in the
Josh,
past?
Josh.
Number 8 won
how do you
the
leave
national
out
championship.
a Torian Prince-led Baylor team losing to Yale? That's a crazy upset. Torian Prince. Did you ever hear his quote after? They got out-rebounded, and they asked Torian Prince, how does a Yale team out-rebound Baylor? And he just said, they just grabbed more rebounds than us.
Oh, wow. Patrick Ewing said the same thing after his Georgetown team.
How do you leave out a C.J. McCollum-led Leahy, 15 seed, going up against number 2 Duke, a Duke team that had 8 future NBA players? C.J. McCollum takes this team and beats them in 2012. What a run that is. And Oral Roberts being 17-10 and beating Ohio State as a 15 seed? How is that not
When you
there?
can say the team's name right, I'll listen to you. Finn, what do you have to say?
I like your list, honestly.
Thank you, Finn.
Quick one.
I don't care what these goofballs have to say about not thinking about the
Eagle final as a
past.
7 seed. Can't leave that out.
Can you stop your yapping about college
I don't care
basketball for 1
about
second?
Zach Edey losing. Zach Edey is going to lose this
No,
month
he's a
too.
fraud. All right. That's all the time we have for this time on Sports Talk of the Burgh. I'm Josh Woodman, from all the people upstairs, from Casey, Finn, and Garrett. We'll see you next time. Thank you.